On this episode of Calibishie Chronicle, I would like to deal with the issue of the bilateral relationship between Guadeloupe and Calibishie. Not Dominica, Calibishie. Because I'm not too sure what trade Guadeloupe had with Porcy and Roseau, but I know there was vibrant trade between Calibishie and Guada in the 80s, early to mid 80s. Well, before that too, because as a kid boy running around the place, the Frenchmen were already coming in, but I wasn't really into the business because at that age, what do you know? But like when I start getting into my teens in the 80s, I realized that this business between Calibishie and Guada was a big business. And I have been to Guadeloupe by back door. Well, it was front door. Well, it was back front door because we went during the day. Back then, when we were going to Guadeloupe, it wasn't that illegal thing and go at night, early morning. No, you leave anytime. We leave like 8, 9 o'clock in the morning, sometimes 6 o'clock, and you get there by 9, 10 o'clock, you're in Guada. If you go with George or the other French people, they say Alex, or Calibishie, avec nous pour aujourd'hui. And sometimes we stay the day, sometimes we spend the night. But I don't think I ever spend the night on a route like that. Just always in, do some business, get some load, put some stuff, back out. So the French people would bring in things like cheese, fromage, jus de raisin, vin blanc, vin rouge, yaourt, banton. They would bring those things in and bidon of meat and so on, and they would take out of Calibishie bags of food, provision. Yeah, yam, dash in Tanya, Jamaica Tanya, yam tosh. I mean, everything out. So, money came in, money also left. But more money, I think, came into Calibishie than living because we sold a lot of produce. Guadeloupe is an overseas dependency of France. So Guadeloupe does not have to produce food or did not have to produce agricultural products en masse to feed or to even export. So there was subsistence famine in Guadeloupe while there was major famine in Calibishie, in Dominica. So we had enough food to export. That's what we did for a living. The Guadeloupeans did not have to do that for a living because France is taking care of the people. So they do their little gardening at the back, backyard gardening just for, I guess, relaxation. So money was booming in the 80s. Farmers were making money. Mr. Ben and Ma Ben were the biggest hucksters in Calibishie and maybe in Dominica too, because the huckster trade was alive and well in the northeast and the east. People used to go to Guada every week and come back, make a lot of money. Anyway, what happened at one point in time is that somebody came up with the idea that we should sell plants to Guadeloupe. So instead of selling plantain, Tanya dashin yam at 30, 40 cents a pound, whatever it was at the time, I think it's about 30, 40 cents. We start selling plants. So the French people start buying the plants at $1 a plant. But that's where the trouble is, If you're making $10 on 10 plants, you would prefer to sell that than sell 10 pounds of Tanya. But back then, I don't think the guys thought of what they were doing. Because the Guadeloupe people bought plants, Papa Bonji. I remember loading bags of plants on those boats. And those boats went back loaded with plants. A year or two after, the French people ceased in terms of their purchase. So they were buying, but not as much. And they eventually just stopped buying. Because there was no need to buy food anymore because they were growing the food that they needed in Guadeloupe, because Guadeloupe is just like Dominica, same kind of earth there, same kind of soil. It is just that they got an idea from us that they can do that commercially. I don't think they're doing commercially, but they're doing it enough to not to want to export it. Sorry, to import it. And that is what killed the trade between Calibishie and Guada. Oh, one of the things Guada used to sell also was the cheese. They used to call it tip-top cheese. Now they call it cube cheese. It was tip-top at the day. And Michel Platini, a footballer from France, was on that cheese. I think he was from Guada, somewhere thereabout. This picture of Michel Platini was on that cheese. So I just thought I would share this with you, because sometimes you end up shooting yourself in the foot and not knowing it. And that's what I think we did back then in the 80s when we sold plants instead of food. And I hope we're not making that mistake again in terms of other aspects of the Dominican life, continue giving people our recipe for everything and not making money for a recipe. So I just thought I would bring that back, and people who can remember those days will say, oh yes, I remember what Alex is talking about, because I sold plants to Guada, and what a mistake I made. We'll continue discussing on the next episode of Calibishie Chronicle.